Let us watch an audio visual on the purpose of this discussion.
The transition from the classroom to the battlefield is a remarkable journey that shapes individuals into strong and resilient leaders. Classroom education provides the foundation, instilling knowledge, critical thinking, and teamwork skills. As they step onto the battlefield, these individuals face physical and mental challenges that push them to their limits. They learn to adapt, make tough decisions, and lead with courage. The battlefield becomes a classroom of its own, teaching them invaluable lessons through first-hand experience. Reflecting on their actions, they refine their leadership skills and grow from each encounter. This transformation from classroom to battlefield creates leaders who embody the qualities necessary to protect and serve. Their education, combined with their battlefield experiences, equips them to face any obstacle with unwavering determination and to lead with integrity.
I'd now like to invite Jyoti Kamal, Managing Editor, News18 Punjab, Haryana, to please escort the panelists on the stage. Lieutenant General Deependra Singh Hooda. Lieutenant General Hooda is a former General Officer, Commanding-in-Chief of the Indian Army's Northern Command. He was the Northern Army Commander during the surgical strike in September 2016. Lieutenant General Hooda has been awarded the Vishisht Seva Medal twice, the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, the Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, and the Param Vishisht Seva Medal for his exemplary service. He is also the co-founder of the Council for Strategic and Defence Research, a New Delhi-based think tank. Over to you, Jyoti Kamal.
Thank you so much, Arshi. It's not often that we have legends amongst us. General Deependra Singh Hooda, he was the commander of the Northern Army when the Uri strikes had taken place. And that was a defining moment for the Indian Army. It had been happening earlier also. It's not as if it had not been happening. They were like smaller actions that were done, but it was a defining moment in terms of the decisive action that was taken. It was 18th of September, in fact, 2016, when there were these 4 Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists who had crossed over from the other side. They had come to this brigade headquarters. There was a changeover that was happening between the Dogra and the Bihar regiments there. There were soldiers in tented accommodation which was close to the fence of that particular area. That's when these 4 Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists, they entered that area. They lobbed incendiary ammunition, grenades, which led to 19 soldiers losing their lives. So you were in command then, you were the Northern Army commander. For any army commander to lose even a single life is obviously hugely impactful. You never want that to happen. And here you were confronted with a situation where 19 soldiers lost their lives, completely beyond control in terms of what happened. Yes, a lot of things were looked into eventually. But thereafter began this whole chain of events where you were leading from the front in terms of the decisive action that was to be taken. Things were put into place. A strategy was formulated. 10 days later, the counteroffensive took place. Special forces from the Indian side crossed over the border, went deep into enemy territory, obliterated several training camps, came back. We have heard this before, but to have a legend amongst us, we would want to hear it again. What happened? How did you kind of, what happened on that particular day, the information that came to you, and thereafter the steps that you took immediately to kind of lead to the eventual attack that took place in Uri?
So firstly, let me start by saying thank you to News18 for inviting me here. 18 September 2016 was honestly a very, very difficult day for me as the Army Commander. News started coming in early morning that 4 terrorists have entered the camp, Uri garrison, and the first information was we have 5 soldiers killed. An hour later, it was 10 soldiers killed. An hour later, it was 15 soldiers killed. And it became sometimes you dread a telephone call coming to you and telling you what's happening. Finally, by the time the operation ended and the terrorists were killed, we had 19 soldiers dead. It was the single biggest casualty in a single operation in the last 20 years. And it really hit us badly. That evening, the Army Chief and I went to Uri garrison, as you were saying that, tented accommodation was there, everything was burned down. We were walking in something like 6 inches of ash of burnt tents. But I think very quickly we decided that this action cannot go without a strong response from the Indian side. And so very quickly it was decided that, look, we need to do something, we need to respond, and we need to respond strongly. As you mentioned, it's not as if operations had not taken place earlier. The difference was that, as I said, the message must go out that if you are going to come and do something on the Indian side, we will respond on Pakistani soil across the line of control. And then, of course, the main thing sort of running in our minds was how much risk should you take? After all, you are crossing what is the most heavily defended border in the world. The India-Pakistan line of control is possibly the most heavily defended border anywhere in the world. And we had to go cross over the Pakistani forward defenses, go behind, go to the terrorist camps, attack them, and come back. But what is the objective? If the objective is that we needed to send a strong message, then obviously it couldn't be just doing one odd strike and coming back. So we planned 5 operations, all to go in on the night of 28-29 September. We had hundreds of soldiers across into Pakistan territory. 5 targets were hit, all on the same night. The first target was hit at about midnight. The last target was hit at 6 in the morning. So there was actually a 6-hour difference between the first and the last target. And sometimes people ask, did you really need to take so much risk in doing this? And my answer is, we were confident. The soldiers were extremely well trained, the special forces soldiers. They were very confident that they would go ahead, carry out the operation, and come back successfully. And indeed, that is what happened. Somebody asked me, what was your feeling after all the soldiers had come back safely? And my answer is, it was a sense of relief that everybody has come back alive. There are no injuries. The sole sense of triumph that we've done such a great thing, comes later. The first thing is that our soldiers are back and they're all safe and secure. So I think it was a complex operation. Who's to be credited with the success? It's those people who went across the border. They put their lives on line, the soldiers and the men. And if you ask me, a lot of times I'm told, General Hooda planned the surgical strike, but the real heroes are those people who went across the border, carried out the operation, and came back.
So you're right, they are the real heroes in terms of the action that they took. But there is no organization which requires you to take such strong decisions like the Indian Army, where you're actually, that probably you could be sending men to their death. That probably they would die. The soldiers who are moving probably know that they wouldn't come back alive. So it's unlike any other organization, the biggest corporates, the biggest kind of other organizations where you might be taking the most kind of profound financial decisions. But when you ask a man to kind of be putting, that he'll probably be putting his life at risk, it's a big decision to take. You commanded the Northern Army at that point in time. For all of us who probably wouldn't have a fair idea, there are 5 commands in the Indian Army. Now there are additional commands that have also come up. But traditionally, these are like the largest possible striking force is a command, which is an army. So General Hooda was commanding the Northern Army. But this process of decision taking, while of course, as you move up in hierarchy in the army, you gradually learn to kind of handle it from a lieutenant to a captain to a major to a lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier, major general, lieutenant general. You figure out how this whole system works. But those decisions that you have to take at that point in time, it requires that ability to kind of understand that overall situation. Why I'm asking you this is because there are multiple variables which you have to factor in. And that's where we'll eventually come to the use of advanced technologies in the battlefield now, on how do you assist a general officer in being able to take decisions. But to take that decision, is obviously something which requires a whole lot of experience and expertise. How does that decision-taking process work in the army?
Look, I think it works fairly automatically. If your objectives are clear, that this is what your objective is, this is what your aim is, and once you're clear, then you go about how am I going to execute my plan, how am I going to execute my objective. And everything sort of follows. Yes, you need to gain information. You need to make sure that your soldiers are safe. You need to make sure you're not taking unnecessary, chances with the lives of people. But once there is clarity of objectives, once it is clear that this is what is in national interest, then that decision has to be taken. Let me also say, you talked about, soldiers risking their lives, etc. What is one fundamental feature of the military ethos? What is one fundamental aspect of military culture? It is what we talk about, the ethos of unlimited liability. What does it mean? It means there is nothing that you will not do in the performance of your duty. You can go to any extent in the performance of your duty, including the laying down of your lives. That is what is meant by unlimited liability. And I think it's this feature and this ethic of military life which also assists us in our decision making. That we know, yes, we are putting people in danger, lives in danger, but the soldier understands this is what his job is and he is willing to do it.
Immediately after the attack had taken place, you had kind of started planning the response that the Indian Army would deliver to the other side. And in fact, that plan was put into place within 2-3 days. After which then obviously it moves through its escalation right to the army chief and then to the political leadership. The political leadership will finally give the go-ahead that the operation has to take place. The army chief will then kind of transfer command to you, and then you will be the one who would be leading this entire operation. You were supposed to actually kind of go in on 27th, but you delayed it by a day. So what led to kind of that delay that took place, and how did you maintain that complete secrecy of this operation?
So very few people actually knew about it. We didn't want to, tell a lot of people that this is what is being planned. You're from the media. Let me tell you, there was so much criticism coming from the media. What is the army doing? An attack has taken place at Uri garrison. Why is the soldiers not prepared, etc., etc. And we just kept absorbing that kind of criticism, kept taking it. Our planning had begun the next day. But we obviously didn't want, any information to sort of leak out. So it was a very small group of people who planned this operation. In fact, I remember the day after the attack took place, even about 90% of people in my headquarters were completely surprised that such an operation has taken place. So it was a small sort of planning group. Me and a few people in the headquarters, then of course the military operations directorate, the army chief, and the political leadership. To be fair, the political leadership gave us the directions that we required. They gave the go-ahead. And they didn't at all interfere in the detailed planning. They didn't say, we want you to do it like this, or they left it to us. Why was there a delay of one day? It was purely for some internal reason that we decided, let's not do this today. Some more time was required for planning and preparation. There was one target in which information started coming in, so we had gathered all the information about the targets. But a day prior to the attack, some information started coming in that probably this area has been reinforced, some more soldiers or terrorists have come into that area. So we just wanted a little more information before we sent in our people. So that was one reason why there was a delay of a day.
To actually send soldiers from the Indian side onto the Pakistani side, crossing the border, crossing the line of control, and then actually crossing the barrier put up by the Rangers and then the Pakistani army, and then to reach those terror camps, and then to actually kind of unleash your operation there over a period of 5 hours, and then make your way back to exfiltrate from there and come back to the Indian side. So during this time, you know that anything can go wrong, because howsoever much you may kind of control, plan, everything, the variables are probably too many. So were you like really nervous as you were watching this entire operation unfold in front of you, as you were getting this constant video feed and other kind of inputs coming to you?
So frankly, not really nervous. I mean, as they say, once the operation is launched, it's really out of your hands. Now, you may be like a big commander sitting there, but the fact is, once soldiers have gone across, they will do what they have to do. They have trained, they have prepared for it. So for you to start getting nervous at this stage...
Sorry, sir, sorry to interrupt you, but it's not as if you would be giving real-time commands. It wouldn't be like that you would give real-time commands that move forward, do this or do that. You wouldn't be doing that.
No. So once, as I said, it's like, once the bullet is fired from the gun, there is nothing you can do to change this direction. It's gone. So you pull the trigger. We have pulled the trigger by sending people across. Now it was for them to do what they had to do. And as I said, we were confident. We had various contingencies in place. If some group gets into trouble, what are we going to do? We had planned then that we'd probably send in a sort of a rescue party, again a risky operation. But those contingencies were all in place. I recall, so I told you there was about a 6-hour difference between the first and the last attack that took place. So after the first few attacks took place and people returned safely, I asked the commanding officer, who was to do the last 2 attacks, which were to go in at 6 in the morning. I said, why don't you hurry it up a little if your people are in place? He said, sir, planning is done, everything is done, don't interfere now with my operation. And so I said, yes, please go ahead and do as you plan. So as I said, you have to have confidence in your people, have to have confidence in your soldiers who've gone across. And as I said, I don't think there is a group of soldiers anywhere in the world which is as well trained as our special forces. If there is anything missing, I would say probably the American special forces have better equipment. But as far as motivation levels, training levels are concerned, I think our soldiers are among the best.
General Hooda, warfare and technology go hand in hand. The Second World War was a major kind of propulsion force for a lot of technology to be developed, including the atomic weapons. Even now, there is this constant demand from the army for more and more sophisticated technology to be available because the more information that you have, the greater advantage you have. So as you see technology kind of advancing, do you feel that the Indian Army is also being able to keep pace with absolute latest state-of-the-art technology, including artificial intelligence? Now, why AI comes into the Army's domain is also because using sensors, using computer vision, using all sorts of ability to actually be able to make sense of the information that's coming in. You have multiple sources of information coming, to be able to somehow filter it so that you get actionable intelligence. So there, AI and these tools are helping to give you actionable intelligence. What are you seeing? What numbers are you seeing? What is the possible action that can be taken? When can it be taken? What would the weather conditions be like? So all of that. So when you see all of that happening, do you feel we are keeping pace? Are you seeing that level of technological competence coming in? And how do you see man and machine relating to each other?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I think technology is something that has shaped the character of warfare through generations. Start from cannons versus elephants, start from the longbow versus the sword, tank versus infantry. Technology is constantly shaped and changed warfare. And we've had so much discussion today on artificial intelligence, and that's the next big thing, frankly. As you said, in decision making, in integrating information, you have thousands of sensors along the line of control, along the borders. How is that information coming in? How is it getting synthesized? Is it going to the right person? Is it helping you in making decisions and command control? A lot of application of AI now also in the cyber warfare domain. So technology is extremely, extremely important. Where are we in the Indian military as far as technology adoption is concerned? I'm afraid we started late. I mean, I need to be honest. We started a little late in technology adoption in the Indian military. But slowly now we are seeing, we are picking up. So both at the national level and at the military level, you are finding greater absorption of technology. So you have missions for artificial intelligence. The government has recently launched a national quantum mission with a budget of about 6,000 crores. So as these things come, their absorption is also happening in the Indian military.
The Defense Artificial Intelligence Project Agency has also now been created, which is kind of building multiple technologies like storm drones and all other kinds of technology integration, which is front-end weapons as also back-end technologies. But the Indian Army actually has a system of education at almost every level. It's not as if you can join the army and straight away move to the senior most ranks. You have to go through various education courses. You have to kind of pass courses. You have to prepare, even as you're a colonel, you have to kind of prepare for your Defense Services Staff College. Then you have to do your senior command, higher command. So it's not as if you would straight away kind of move to the senior most ranks once you join the army. Unlike sometimes there is this criticism when we compare it with the civil services, where once you clear the UPSC, you'll probably move through to the topmost ranks based on the time that you've spent in the army. You have to clear examinations. So when you see this whole process of education, and you see the kind of new technologies that are now emerging, and you see the whole structure of the Indian Army, right from officers down to soldiers, and how training and education will need to be imparted across this spectrum. So do you see a big challenge there in terms of how technology is advancing, this whole challenge of being able to educate right across the level to be able to utilize the technology? Do you see a certain challenge and a gap there?
See, I think there is always a challenge as new technologies come in, how they're going to be absorbed in your education and training methodology. So that's always a bit of a challenge. But let me also say, and perhaps it's not very well known, the army has, not the army, so the Indian military has a very structured education system. It's called professional military education. I myself must have done about a dozen courses. 3 of those courses were actually 1 year long. So that's how long the army lets you get away for your education, for your training. So it's a very structured system, and it's meant, and my apologies to the educationists and the academicians who might be here, the focus of the education, or we call it training, in the military is to prepare you for real world situations that are likely to arise. And if you ask me, do I have one word of advice? It is in our academics, in our colleges, in our institutions, our education must be geared towards preparing people for what they're going to face in the future, and not mere sort of theoretical kind of teaching. I meet a lot of people in the industry, and they say, look, we have people who are educated, but somehow they are not employable. So what we need to do, I think, is also structure our education in a way that people are prepared for the situation that they are likely to face in the future.
General Hooda, just after the Uri counteroffensive, 2 months down the line, you retired from the army 2 months after the Uri counteroffensive had taken place. That probably must have been the high point of your career, unless there is something else that was. But in any case, we want to know of a couple of other high points that have happened in your career, other than the Uri counteroffensive, that you recall as a top army officer.
No, look, there are so many things that you go through, 40 years in service, and many challenges that you come across. You heard, earlier to how various operations and people have participated in that. If you ask me, so rather than saying high points, let me say some very challenging moments. And one that I recall was the 2005 earthquake that happened in Uri. Incidentally, I commanded the Uri brigade in the same garrison which was attacked in 2016. And I still recall the date, 8 September 2005, when this earthquake struck Uri. Everything was smashed. I mean, it's like you go, within 30 seconds, everything that you are seeing around you has completely crashed. We had something like 160 buildings in the Uri garrison. Out of 160, 155 completely collapsed. The Uri market was on fire within seconds. Roads were blocked. Everything was, communications were down. On our posts, bunkers had collapsed. People were trapped underneath it. Those days, I think, and how we got around it, to me was, if you ask me, really, really sort of challenging times that I've gone through.
In fact, we'd also come to Uri, and that was the first time that I managed to kind of get to sit in a military helicopter. It was an Mi-8 helicopter where it kind of flew through the valleys as it was going towards Uri. Sir, the defense, the defense kind of tenure that you spent as a career, a lot of army officers say that given a second chance, there's nothing better that I would want to do. I mean, the kind of exposure that you get in the army. What has your take been on the time that you spent in the army and as a profession, as a career, and something that you would like to tell the next generation in terms of what should they look forward to when they look to the Indian Army as a career?
So I think it's been a life. So I put on the uniform first time when I was 16 years old, when I joined the NDA. That's the time I put on my uniform, and I removed it when I was 60 years old. So literally that uniform becomes like a second skin to you. And it brings with it enormous values. I mean, what you see in the military life. We use words like integrity, honor, comradeship, loyalty. For us in the military, these are not sort of empty words. These are absolutely essential values that you need to have if the military is to function. The military cannot function if there is no comradeship, if there is no loyalty, if there is no honor. And so for us, these are absolutely essential, must-have qualities for the organization to function. And I think these have shaped me. If I look at myself today, although I'm out of uniform, if I look at myself today, it's these qualities and these values, I think, that have really shaped me. So for those of you who are keen to make the military a career, please understand, one, these are the values that you will have to imbibe. Please understand that there are sacrifices to be made. I talked about this whole concept of unlimited liability. Sacrifices not only that you have to make, but sacrifices that your families have to make. My wife is sitting here, and I know how she's alone, has brought up children, and kept the family together when I was not there. So if you are willing to do all that, if you have the Josh and Jazba, youngsters, the army will really, really welcome you. And let me tell you, the military also promises that it will take care of you. If something happens to you, something happens in the course of your duty, it is the responsibility of the military, it's the responsibility of the nation that they will look after you, and they have done that.
Clearly, sir, because even as we speak right now, right across our border, which is a huge border that we have, there are soldiers strung right across the border, making sure that we stay safe. And thank you, sir, for having kind of been a part of that force that makes us feel safe in this country. Thank you, General Hooda, for participating in this News 18 event. It's our honor that you could take time out, sir. Thank you so much.
To felicitate our guest.
Wonderful conversation. Sir, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Jyoti Kamal, please stay back. Without our partners, this event would not have been possible. Now we'd like to give a token of appreciation to our partners. I invite Dr. Padma Kumar Nair, Director, Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala. Thank you so much, sir. I invite Dr. V.K. Ratan, Vice Chancellor, GNA University, Phagwada. Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite Mr. Shubham, HR Manager on behalf of Maninderjeet Singh, MD Travel Tip, our travel partner. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Jyoti Kamal. With this, we'd like to thank Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala, Reliance Industries Limited, Associate Partner, World Immigration Network and Baba Freed Group of Institutions, Bathinda, CT University, Ludhiana, GNA University, Fagwada, Digital Learning Partner, TC by Online, Travel Partner, Travel Tip, and Overseas Partner, ESS Global. And I thank our wonderful audience on behalf of News 18 Punjab, Haryana for joining us here till we meet again. Thank you so much.